Oh, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes. Thank you very much for allowing me to enter your consciousness again this week. We are recording this on November 22nd, 2022, and it's a review show this week. We're doing a lot of reviews. But before we get into that, leave a like if you're listening to this on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, or subscribe to the channel if this is your first time, because not only does this help the channel grow, but you will also get notified when I do my AEW Dynamite reviews, which is something that is still very fresh, very new, that I do every Thursday. I pre-record them. They're not live, but you will still get the notification when that happens. So that's a good way to make sure that you get that you don't miss a single thing. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, thank you very much, because the audio listeners are super important as well. Well, they get the Mr. Warren Hayes Show just like this. They get also the AEW Dynamite review show on Thursdays. All you have to do is subscribe to the feed as well. And on top of that, if you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or a 5-star rating on Spotify, those are just unique, fantastic, tiny little ways, however significant, that will help the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel grow. So I appreciate all of that in advance. Then on top of that, if you want to keep talking about wrestling, you want to meet some like-minded individuals, come on over to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. I don't know why that sounded like a threat, because it's not, but come on over to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. The link is in the description. Come chat with wrestling fans from around the world, talking about professional wrestling all the time, all day, every day. But as it stands right now, we're going to get right in to some reviews. AEW Full Gear 2022. We're reviewing that. New Japan Stardom historic crossover match, show. It wasn't just a match, it was a show. We're reviewing that as well. Plus, at the very end, at the tail end of the show, dessert for you, if you will. WWE Survivor Series War Games preview, which is happening in just a couple of days. So, hey, thank you for being here. Without even a further breath, let's jump right to it. I'm so close to the end. I can taste it. I have maintained my New Year's resolution impeccably so far, and we're going to keep going. Ladies and gentlemen, here is another nice thing about Bill Goldberg.
Warren Hayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
Not as much a nice thing tonight than a haiku. How about that? Here's a Bill Goldberg haiku. Similar, over, yet words strike like lightning, Brett. Need a jackhammer.
Warren Hayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
It's so close, I can taste it. It's so close. Let's get on with the weekly wrestling inspection, because there's a lot to inspect this week. So, I had a little show this week that was from an entertainment company. So, by the way, let me just recap here really quickly, right? Tonight, we are going to be talking about AEW Full Gear. We're going to be reviewing the New Japan Stardom show, the historic crossover as well. Plus previewing WWE Survivor Series War Games. And that I'm saving for the end. I think that's the dessert. It is it is the thing that everyone is chomping at the bit for me to talk about. They all want to hear what insane Warren takes he has regarding War Games. What do we got? What do you got for us, Warren? Well, you're gonna have to wait till the end for that. In the meantime, we're gonna start by talking about AEW Full Gear. Full Gear happened. Oh, brother, that happened on this past Saturday, November 19, at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. before we start talking about the card and breaking stuff down and so on and so forth, everything that we can evaluate right now, that we can look at, that we can see, right? We have we can say with a certain amount of success of confidence that Full Gear was a success for AEW. The show was announced on air as a sellout. From what we've been able to gather from WrestleTix and other sources, there were about 600 seats away from a legitimate absolute sellout. But, this was one of these where they kept opening up sections, so on and so forth. So, I mean, this is a good full capacity house for them. I mean, when we're talking about 600 tickets differential in a 12,000 seat arena, something like that. I think that, I think it's great. And the show topped 1 million, hitting the 1 million mark. So another $1 million gate for AEW. Tony Khan at the very, very tame and highly uninteresting post-media scrum. The bar was raised so high after All Out, and now we're just back to humdrum, nothing fun's happening. Deep, 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 deep. So I'm not doing the Goldberg thing again. He can rewatch, he can rewind. My God. There was during the scrum, Tony Khan noted that according to the initial numbers that he had received, that it would be similar to All Out, which I would consider to be a success, considering that there was no CM Punk on this card, and that would actually bring it around 140,000, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, but still would be though under the numbers that were reported for Full Gear last year, which were 150,000, 155,000, something to that effect. So still underperforming, higher than probably what a lot of us expected. We're going to get the initial numbers over the next few days, and always keep in mind, right, that it takes, maybe we get some markets are able to deliver their pay-per-view buys very quickly. We probably get the information, for instance, from Fight very quickly, but a lot of cable networks do take a few months before reporting their full numbers for multiple reasons, and that's why these always start off as estimates, and as the months progress, pay-per-view buys always go up. And that's not just for AEW. If people are saying Warren's making excuses, nope, no making excuses. That's the nature of the business. It's the same thing for everyone. Same thing for it's the same thing for UFC. Everything. It was the same thing with WWE in the day before they had the network. That's just how the business works. So kind of like I said on the AEW Dynamite review show, which I do every Thursday, by the way. Don't forget to check that out. Should be a fun one this week. As I mentioned, I figured that the pay-per-view was going to perform, as far as buys go, under last year's Full Gear, which seems to be the case. I was balling it around 130,000 buys. I can't be disappointed with the fact that it's going to be higher. Again, it's we're going to continue to see how these trends go. Maybe look, did the announcement of the Elite coming back, did that generate enough buzz to really give it a good boost? Maybe. There's a couple of things. I thought it was a pretty good card overall, despite the fact that, most podcasts on this week were all talking about, what's your temperature on AEW's Full Gear? What's your temperature on AEW's Full Gear? I haven't seen a fucking podcast this week talk about your temperature on Survivor Series. And why is that? You can fucking ask me what my temperature is. I'll let you know later. So stupid. Anyway. But yeah, so this is, so, you know, so I think this is going to turn out to be perceived as a success by AEW, and I think they should. If they're hitting 140,000 for early estimates, I think that's very good news. Again, like I said, if only because CM Punk wasn't around and they were able to get a higher or an equivalent buy rate, I should say, to what they got for All Out. On a card that a lot of people, again, were saying, the build isn't great. I'm so tired of this show, of this feud, the JAS and BCC. Like everyone that I've, not everyone, I don't want to do generalizations. Let's say many people who I follow, that I listen to, card feels cold, I'm uninterested, so on and so forth. Yeah, here we are. Like we got 140,000 buys to start off. We'll see how everything works out. But as it stands right now, things seem to look. The gate, success. Prudential Arena, full to almost capacity, like 99.7%. I'm terrible at math. What would be 600 of 12,000? I don't know, but it's high up there. It's a number you could round up easily, right? That's what you do. Looking to be a success. But let's talk about the card. We'll start talking with about 0 hour to begin with. The pre-show, of course, started off with the best friends, i.e. Chuck Taylor, Trent Beretta, Orange Cassidy, and Danhausen. Oh, and Rocky Romero, of course, in a 10-man tag match against the factory team of Aaron Solo, Cole Carter, Lee Johnson, Nick Camarado, and QT Marshall. Fun little crowd pleaser to kick things off. Nothing but no real work here. This was not your work rate special. It was fine. Everyone got their spots in. Orange Cassidy did the feel good hits, and everything worked. Everything connected. The payoff, of course, being Danhausen. He had been teasing who was going to be the mystery partner. And they did this thing where Danhausen's doing mystery videos. And it's clearly him, but he comes out in his, evil Danhausen persona. I'd like to call him Dankhausen. If it doesn't already have a name, could we call him Dankhausen? Because this evil Danhausen, he doesn't, he's got no time to fuck around. He's not here to, to curse people, to just, no, he's hitting it hard, and he cleared house, got the win for his team. I really like QT Marshall in his role right now as a low level, thug boss. I love it. I love the work. Like, this is the thing, is like as a prelim act, opening show, you couldn't ask for anything better. Like, this is a guy who draws heat. He's an asshole. He can work when it's time. Like, he's solid, but we're not going to have the great QT Marshall run. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to have that. We're not going to have that, and that's fine, because that's not what he's there for. So that's okay. Then we had the second round for the semifinal match, actually, of the AEW World Eliminator Tournament, where Ricky Starks defeated Brian Cage. I thought this was all right. I thought, both guys worked. It was fine. Starks selling the injuries from the Archer attack from last Wednesday. It's crazy how close I was to determining his booking this week. Although, last minute, very, very last minute, we learned that AEW's pulled the World Title Eliminator Tournament finals from the card to put them this week on Dynamite. So I think that was fine. And I was so close, right? Because I said, like, let's have let's have Ricky like fight Archer on Dynamite, then Cage on Rampage, and then the next day you have Ethan Page, and it's a good way for Ethan Page then to get the win over him because Ricky Starks he was beaten, brutalized. He had injuries. He had work injuries for this match here that he was selling. That was part of the story, and it can still be a part of the story when we get to him on Wednesday, where clearly, he can absolutely take an L to Ethan Page, not a problem, and still have that babyface energy. It's like, look, he just had, unlike Ethan Page, Ricky Starks had to go through his entire tournament within a week. Not even a week, less than a week, 5 days. I think it would have been a little more compelling if it had been like Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. I don't know why they decided to pull it. Anyway, like I said, Ricky Starks works this match from beneath, overcoming the monster that is Brian Cage. Cage got a lot of shit in at the same time. And Starks lands a destroyer, which was impressive as hell, and the Rochambeau for the win. I got a big pop from the audience, lifting Brian Cage off of the up on his shoulders, which was pretty cool. I'm not going to admit. I am going to admit. Why did I say I wouldn't admit it? There's no reason why I wouldn't admit it. I don't know what to say. Good stuff. That's fine. Brian Cage more and more back on TV. Then we had, should we call it the people's main event? Because to a degree it was. So Eddie Kingston defeated his dream opponent, Jun Akiyama, to my surprise. But listen, look, one thing at a time, Warren. The story in this match, of course, was the fulfillment of a dream for Eddie Kingston. This is what we were going for, right? So this goes beyond the match itself. This is not just, this match is not just a, two guys fighting each other. There's something much greater to this, something much bigger. And I really like this match because of the emotion that it carried, because of what it represented. This match was wonderfully built for pro wrestling fans. And I'm drawing a line here. Because I guarantee, I know there are fans from, the other promotion. I don't understand this. Who are these people? I don't get it. I know. Why are people making such a big deal out of this? Well, pro wrestling fans got it. And, excuse me, this was fantastic. They were throwing exploder suplexes at each other. All right, chopping the shit out of each other. I was shocked that Akiyama took the pin. And because I would have loved to have been in that room, as the guys are working out stuff, and it's like, I don't know who was involved in this decision, but you'd assume Eddie and Akiyama were there, then, translators and whatnot, probably the booker. And I would have loved to see how we got to this point. Like, did Akiyama just straight out offer, say, no, I'll put you over, And Eddie's like, no, man, listen, you're my hero. I've looked up to you. This is my dream match. When I was talking about this with a bunch of friends, and Kristen and so on and so on, we were like, who's going to win this? I'm like, well, Eddie's going to lay down for him. Of course he is. It's just one of those where you go, well, duh. It's like, it just made absolute sense for him to pay his respects to the man who inspired him to be a pro wrestler and work that style. God, I would have loved to. But of course, if maybe down the road in a shoot interview, perhaps with one Mr. MrWarrenHayes, one can dare dream. I make you this solemn promise. Like, if I ever get the chance to, chat with Eddie Kingston, get him on record, do an interview, I promise I will ask him the question. Take me back We're November in 2022, and you're sitting face to face with Jun Akiyama. You're working out the details of the match. Tell us, how did you come? Who decided that he was going to take the pin for you? Because that was absolutely a big deal for Eddie. That was personally, like, for sure. He's like, holy shit. Jun Akiyama just lay down flat on his back and let me pin him. And then on top of that, Jun Akiyama in the ring bows to him. Don't take this shit lightly, because the Japanese don't. The Japanese don't take this shit lightly. Kayfabe is very, very particular in Japan. It still exists. That's why you'll have, you'll never see, like, wrestlers, for instance, the easiest example in New Japan, you'll never see wrestlers of other factions, wrestlers hanging out with wrestlers from other factions, taking pictures with each other. It'll always be like a group thing. It's wild that this finish happened. And the realness of it all, and Kingston's post-match promo where he is overwhelmed, overcome, and you could even see it in his pre-match promo when he was talking to his sis, right? He said, "Look, my mind's in the ring." And Eddie Kingston is the realest wrestler out there. This is a guy who has he wears everything on his sleeve. We've talked about this before. He wears everything on his sleeve. He's relatable. He's plain spoken. He never feels like he's bullshitting you. You never have the impression that there's a character addressing you. And that's one of the strengths that Eddie Kingston has. It is his top strength, making him so relatable. He's one of my favorite wrestlers in the world right now because of that reason. Because everything he does, everything he says, feels authentic, feels true. No bullshit. No personalities, no gimmicks, no ego. We all have ego. You know what I mean? Like, it's just raw, unfettered, real. This is real to him. It's real to me. God damn it. And isn't that what we want out of wrestling, ultimately, is to feel something? Isn't that what we want? We just want pro wrestlers to make us feel shit. Make us get excited, get up off of our feet, of course, but it can go a little deeper. It doesn't have to be always, let's sing along with the chants, or it can be a lot deeper than that. I think that's what I love the most about pro wrestling, and those are the wrestlers that I have a tendency to gravitate to. Wrestlers that can make me feel shit. And Eddie's a master at that. Good match. Of course, this isn't 1998 Jun Akiyama. This isn't the guy, who was coming up, and going toe to toe with Misawa. He's up there in age, but still worked a great match. You know what I love? I was thinking about the pre-shows for AEW, and for a while, they've all been hits. And you know why? You know why I think why? Because not unlike Eddie, there's no bullshit to the pre-shows. It's just wrestling. You sit down and you get an hour of wrestling in multiple shapes. Look at what we had here in this pre-show. You had the opening, the first match of the Full Gear extravaganza. Coming out is a crowd pleaser with Orange Cassidy, one of the most over guys in the company, who's just always people want to see him do the Orange Cassidy shit. Well, he comes in and he does it, and it's a feel good match. You get a match with some stakes, with some reality, with some real objectives for the wrestlers involved. A tournament, you get that little excitement, and then on top, to cap it all off, you get a really good wrestling match between a legend and a guy who's looked up to him all his life. He just wanted to have his own boyhood dream come true, kind of thing. So, and that's been a thing with AEW's pre-shows. There's no nonsense. There's no bullshit. There's not a fucking panel of Jerry Lawlers sitting around and trying to cut one-liners. It's just, give me some pro wrestling. And then it's when I myself, it's not even people, it's me, when I have these thoughts that like I just expressed them to you. And I'm like, of course I'm not attracted to the other product. When I sit down, when I want to watch pro wrestling and I want to get involved in it, when I want to see people do what I fucking reserve time out of my week to watch, and they're actually doing it, and they're doing it well, and it's fun, crowd is into it, why would I want to sit around listening to 4 people break down stories, fucking Peter Rosenberg going, like, why would I want that? Doesn't make me care more about the show. It doesn't. This stuff like this. Excuse me. Stuff like this makes me care much more about the product. Makes me care much more about the show coming up than any group of people sitting around going, flashing video packages, and then coming around saying, well, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. Jeez Louise, who's going to win? Well, Roman Reigns is head of the table, so he's my pick. Well, Brock Lesnar, he's the beast incarnate. Yeah, but have you thought about, the bloodline? They're the ones. Yeah, but, Brock Lesnar, we've never seen him with a top bun before. Anyway, you know what I mean? It's like, I can't stand that stuff. It doesn't add anything. It doesn't make me more hype. Au contraire, at this point, I'm like, get on with the fucking show. And if Tony Khan does this, here's the thing, right? This fucking mythical casual viewer, right? That everyone seems, well, how are you going to attract the casuals? Listen, there's a fair chance if you're listening to this podcast right now from the best D-list podcast, you guys are the A+ audience. If you're listening to this right now, there's a fair chance that you probably watch a little more wrestling than your average human being does, right? Probably. I'm not trying to create a generalization, but let's humor me for a second here. There's a chance that you are maybe more on the hardcore side than you are on the casual side. So if a wrestling company is trying its damnness to not answer what you want, why the hell are you watching it? Why are you spending your time listening to a wrestling product who is trying to cater to people who don't even watch it and who haven't been watching it in years on top of that? The Rampage situation between us all here, Rampage, as I said previously, over the past couple of weeks, I think Rampage has been good. It's been tailored to something that I like. And if Tony Khan, instead of making Rampage the B show, if he wants to make it the show for hardcore viewers who are going to watch wrestling on Friday night at 10 p.m., there is not a casual in the world that is going to tune into AEW Rampage Friday night, 10 p.m. Let's be real for a second here. If we tune in, if Tony decides, look, this is the one where I'm going to bring in Japanese stars, I'm going to bring back Takeshita, and we're going to put Jun Akiyama versus Eddie Kingston, and this is going to resonate with the hardcore base, and I'm going to bring in Katsuyori Shibata, and that's going to resonate with the hardcore base. If it becomes the show for hardcore pro wrestling fans, and I don't even want to say hardcore, pro wrestling fans, let it become the show for pro wrestling fans. Give us stuff. But Now we're going to start off, we're going to talk about the main show, the main product. Let's get to the nitty gritty here. The official start of AEW. AEW. Can you do it with just one hand? What if you do it like, no, my fingers aren't flexible enough and my thumb is so awkward. No, I can't do it with one hand. Steel cage match opened up this show where Jungle Boy Jack Perry defeated Luchasaurus. This match over-delivered big time. And because I came into this match looking at this one, I was like, I'm kind of burnt out on the whole Luchasaurus, Jack Perry stuff. I'm excited to see where this moves forward. I was giving everyone the benefit of the doubt of doing the best with what they had because this clearly wasn't the direction that was planned, but Christian got injured. So I'm like, okay, we have to have a blow off here. There has to be something. And most importantly, crossing my fingers, crossing my toes, Jungle Boy had to have a really good showing here. And Jesus Christ, did he ever? Did he ever have? He just knocked it out of the park. Him and Luchasaurus, everyone knocked it out of the park, really, in this match. What an excellent opener to a pay-per-view here. Like, as much as there were, absolutely excellent matches on this card, this one is a standout. This is one that we're still talking about, that we're still thinking about, and we're going, that ruled. And even before the elbow drop spot, right? Such a good build. The intensity, it was so tense throughout the entire thing. Luchasaurus was beating the shit out of him and using the cage as a weapon. And I saw someone on Twitter, and I apologize, I can't remember who exactly, but I saw someone on Twitter saying, that this cage match felt like a Hell in a Cell, like the way Hell in a Cells used to be. And I'll say it felt like a cage match should feel, Hell in a Cell or not. This felt like what a cage match should feel. But then WWE created the Hell in a Cell because they ran just the regular cage match a little bit into the ground, and it didn't feel as violent anymore. And a cage match, when it's properly done, the cage is a weapon. It's a container. It's something to keep both of these guys trapped. It should feel violent, and it should make the wrestlers go a little mad because there's no room to rest. There's no respite here. All they can do is fight, and use the cage to their advantage, because the cage absolutely has to be used as a weapon. I don't know why so many people got upset when the door opened, but maybe this is WWE brain here coming up, and I can't blame anyone for thinking like that, because 20 years of the same company doing pro wrestling, you're sort of like, oh, this is how it works. But a cage match, remember, locking the door to a cage match is more unusual to the concept of a cage match than the opposite, because technically it wasn't the case here, and it's not in the cases of all modern cage matches now, but one of the ways to win a cage match was to escape, right? So the door was always open and was always unlocked. I think people got miffed at the door being locked and then opened so that they could escape and then go back in because of Hell in a Cell. Because there were a couple of Hell in a Cells over the past couple of years where the gimmick for Hell in a Cell, this is where we have to be able to separate our brain and go, oh, so this can go on this side, and it's not just one big mishmash of stuff. Remember that the Hell in a Cell gimmick is you cannot escape this cage. There is a lid. The doors are locked. They're padlocked. You can't get out. You're stuck in there until there's a winner. That's the gimmick. So, of course, when cage doors start flying open and people are starting to escape and people start to pour in, you're like, it kind of loses its value. It kind of loses its sense. Here, I'm like, this worked. And cage matches aren't overdone in AEW, right? There's a lot of wrestling pundit brain that exists out there as well. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. People like me and reporters and journalists and others, more successful peers than I will watch a fuckload of wrestling. So we watch it all. So of course, we see a lot of ladder matches, we see a lot of cage matches and Hell in a Cells and all that, because we're watching a metric ton of wrestling. So when we start getting annoyed at shit because it's being done over multiple companies, well, it's maybe not that one company's fault. Cage matches haven't been overdone in AEW. They just have not been overdone. Ladder matches, absolutely. Cage matches, they haven't. So in a vacuum, in a bubble, right here, absolutely fine. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have an issue with the cage being opened up and then for the sake of bringing more shit in to add more violence to the match. At some point, we're complaining for complaining. We're complaining for the sake of complaining. You know what I mean? It's like when people, we see articles where it's like, is 5 hours on a pay-per-view too much? That is absolutely 100% wrestling pundit brain kicking in, where it's like, my God, I have to sit down to watch another 5 hours. Because if you're an AEW fan and you get a quarterly pay-per-view, not one every month, one every 4 months, one every 3 months, that's what right? Yeah, 4 in a year. So math. You get a pay-per-view once every 3 months. Maybe you'll be like, you know what? I'm fine sitting down here for 5 hours to watch a wrestling show of my favorite company. I'm okay because I don't have to do it all the time. I don't have to sift through 7 hours of programming a week. I'm like, yeah, this is great. This is fine. Is it too much? It's such a weird question, but these are the types of things that happen when journalists, reviewers like myself, at some point it's like, is it too much? Well, maybe for me, because I'm watching a lot, but I don't think that my experience is relevant to a regular fan, because you don't have to watch everything. You really don't. You're not beholden to it. I don't have to watch everything. I choose what I want to watch. And it's the same thing like in video games as well. Where a reviewer will say maybe something to the effect of, it's a 30-hour game, and it's another 30-hour open world game. But it's like most gamers, maybe not, look, a lot of gamers, again, I don't want to make generalizations, but I know a lot of gamers, they'll hunker down with one game and they'll take their sweet time. Not everyone's in a rush to finish a game. Reviewers have to rush to finish a game because they have a fucking article to write about it. They have videos to make. Anyway, going off on a tangent. Look at me. Let's get back to but anyway, the point being is that I didn't mind. I didn't mind that the door got open. Anyway, Jungle Boy blades. He blades like a motherfucker. And look, Luchasaurus. We keep talking about Jungle Boy Jack Perry and his transformation, right? And how much of a star this should make him. But we also have to talk about how important a transformation this has been for Luchasaurus as well. Despite the quirky booking of Luchasaurus as, is he a heel? Is he a baby face? That little stint where you were like, oh, he's on Christian's side. Oh, now he's on Jungle Boy's side. Oh no, it turns out he was on Christian's side all along. I think, this is absolutely a perfect discussion point that is open to different viewpoints. That's fine. I think outside of that, his transformation into, Dark Dinosaur here with the, taking over more of a Kane role, let's call a spade a spade. I think it has helped him tremendously. I think his transformation is just as important because he's turned into a beast. He's turned into a machine of violence through this match as well. Like, if your perception of Luchasaurus hasn't changed by now, you're not paying attention, I don't think. Because if you have, this is like, okay, well, this is just a great natural progression. And yes, he's just a violent, heartless beast now. And it works. And it was kind of crucial for him to not end up being the Marty Jannetty of this duo as well. So, of course, the question is here, look, if Tony Khan plays his cards right, he could easily build another monster for his roster. I mean, you can sit around here and say, but Warren, he's already got a bunch of them. He's got Miro that he's just sitting around and not really using. He's got Samoa Joe. You've got Brody King, who's out there as well. And you are all absolutely right. Again, if he plays his cards right, I think he could have another monster on his hands. I think the plan, if you're asking me, might be to cool him off a little. Maybe, I mentioned this on the Dynamite review show last week. What are we doing with Jungle Boy moving forward is a good question, right? Because we eventually have to circle back to Christian Cage, but you can't fucking stretch out Christian Cage and Luchasaurus and Jack Perry anymore. You can't. You got to give a little side action for Jungle Boy until Christian is back for real and he's healed, right? So in the meantime, what do you do with Luchasaurus? You cool him down. Like, what is the plan? Lance Archer is another good example, right? Of a Luchasaurus type, and it's like Tony doesn't quite know exactly what to do with these athletic, crazy ass destructive big guys. All I'm saying here is that there has been a transformation for Luchasaurus that, if played correctly, wouldn't necessarily be the death of him that the team split up and Jungle Boy's moving on to other things. They could have him do other stuff as well. We get a Destroyer and by Jungle Boy and sliced bread, a tombstone by Luchasaurus, who then hangs on to the tombstone, lifts him back up into a tombstone position, then flapjacks him. There's chairs and this table set up in the ring. We get the elbow. We talked about this. Just fantastic, smart booking, great, perfectly produced match. No problems with the key and the lock. One of the greatest feuds in wrestling history is wrestlers versus a padlock using keys and a lock. That's one of the greatest feuds of all time in pro wrestling. Great use of the natural energy, babyface energy of Jungle Boy again in this one. Love this opener. Crowd was super hot. It would only get hotter. I don't know what you want more out of an opener. This was great. It over-delivered. I think it completely blew away any expectations. What a fantastic match to start off with. And that led us in to the World Trios title match where Death Triangle defeated the returning Elite. Great. Let's just get this out of the way. Great reaction. Awesome reaction from the crowd for the return of Kenny Omega and the Bucks. Great entrance with, Kansas and I thought it was great. But the meat of this whole thing here is this goddamn match we got, which I think everyone was sort of agreeing on, saying this is going to be a barn burner, has the potential to be match of the night. There's so many good things that the Bucks and Omega are going to be so excited to perform again. All that good stuff. But what we ended up getting was a match of the year. That's what we ended up getting. Outstanding match by some of the best fucking wrestlers on the planet. And I don't give a shit if you watched a gif of a sequence that you didn't like and was in agreement, a little contrived, and you were poo-pooing on this match. Bates, I don't give a shit about your opinion. This match was excellent because despite the kicky spot where they all fall on their backs and so on and so forth, which we've seen them do before, this match was excellent. Nobody hates pro wrestling more than pro wrestling fans. There is not a group of people who despises athleticism, like pure athletics, more than wrestling fans. And it is so bizarre to me. We are literally watching right before us in 2022 some of the greatest wrestlers that have ever done it. And we're going, this isn't wrestling, this is dancing, choreographs. Why don't you call Paul Abdul, you know? And then in 10, 15, 20 years, the kids who are going to come up behind us, they're going to be looking at these matches and they're going to be like, fuck, I wish I had seen the Bucks in their prime. Fuck, I wish I had seen Pac and Kenny Omega in their prime. But no, we're going to look at a GIF. We're going to look at a goddamn GIF. And we're going to draw battle lines because we're too stupid to realize what we have in front of us. Going to have people try to convince me that, you know, a giant in red jeans is good shit. That's proper pro wrestling. I'm going to tell me that, you know, an under-athletic, overweight book author, Fox News pundit is good wrestling. This was excellent. Pushing our perception of what pro wrestling is forward all the time. This match was compounded with the return of the elite wrestling men with whom they have uncanny chemistry. The Bucks and the elite and the Lucha Bros, there's just something that happens between them. They develop a hive mind. I don't know what it is. But again, in 10, 15 years, we're going to look back at this and we're going to be like, you know what? The Elite and the Bucks, one of the all-time great pairings. We're going to be talking about them like people talk about the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express. Absolutely, 100%. Put your money on what I'm saying right now. This is just absolutely the type of match that I cannot break down properly because there's just too much. There's too much stuff happening. The Elite play the hits, you know. Matt Jackson does the Northern Lights Locomotion and the Rise of the Terminator by Kenny Omega. Nick Jackson is doing Ranas off the top turnbuckle to the floor. You know, it's like, did these guys were these guys just like wrestling under masks everywhere else in the meantime? They didn't lose a fucking step here. Snap Germans by Pac, who was also no-sells a Guitarro Crusher. Like, just, he pops right back up. I love it. He also hits a Brutalizer, a Black Arrow. Pac, at some point, tosses the hammer to Phoenix, right? Ray Phoenix, who shrugs it off. He's like, I'm not using this. Kenny Omega hits a Tiger Driver 98. BTE trigger by the Elite. Pac begs Phoenix to use the hammer. He tosses it to him while Phoenix is getting lifted into the one-winged angel. And Phoenix is like, motherfucker, and finally, bonk. He uses it on Kenny Omega, who collapses, rolls him up, get the win. Death Triangle, over all expectations, get the win here. Despite conventional wisdom telling everyone, oh man, the Elite are getting their titles back, right? Fantastic story with a finish that makes sense despite the use of an international object. This has been, this is the difference in this type of storytelling here. This had been breadcrumbed for weeks with Pac and Ray Phoenix not getting along with the hammer thing, where Phoenix is like, no, I'm going to win this proper. Pac being like, motherfucker, sometimes you have to do what you have to do to win. And they've been peppering this, setting up tension within Death Triangle. And now we look back at it all and we're like, it all makes sense. Again, this is why I'm starting to harp on the idea of hot take culture being a nuisance to how we approach pro wrestling. Because everyone has to have a reaction. Everyone has to go, this is what's happening. This sucks. This sucks. But if you look at the result of this match and you see how everything was built within the Death Triangle up until this point, and you're like, this all makes sense. where Phoenix finally caves in. He's like, yeah, man, you're right. And we're not getting a turn. We're not getting a split of Death Triangle. It created tension, and then conventional wrestling wisdom would be like, Pac is turning on his boys. But no. We got tension in the group for so long. And this is something AEW has been very good at since the beginning. Creating tension, giving us the expectation of, but, the swerve ultimately is, no, everyone's on the same page again. This was fantastically done. And it's not even a swerve. It's not even a swerve, because a swerve implies that it was something you could not have seen coming, that you could not have predicted coming, that ends up being the result. That's what a swerve is. This wasn't a swerve. The seeds were planted for weeks and weeks and weeks. Just great stuff. Absolutely great fucking stuff. And like we're pointing out in the chat here, Rey Fenix was disappointed in himself. Again, doesn't make him a heel. He's not like suddenly dastardly and going, and rubbing his hands together and doing and doing the, doing maniacal laughs into the camera. He caved in. He saw no other recourse to win the match. He was like, shit. Pac is happy as hell. So even that story's not done. You can't even say this is a full-on heel turn when Rey Fenix is like, look, man, I feel shitty, but I had to do what I had to do. Pro wrestling for grown-ups is what this is. Don't ever forget that. Now we're getting a best of 7 series, which I'm fucking stoked about. Why wouldn't you be stoked about 2? Excuse me, let me start that over. Why would you not get excited for 6 world-class athletes performing on a weekly basis for your entertainment and tearing the house down every single time, because you know that's what they're going to do, because these guys are absolute pros and maniacs? Is it too much, Warren? 7 matches. What do I always hear about? I always hear, people fantasy book things. I'd love to see a best of 7 series with so-and-so. I'd love a best of... We're getting a best of series here with 6 of the best wrestlers on the planet. That's going to lead us into the new year. At the new year, we just might have new champions. What is the better return for the elite? Coming back, winning their titles, and just going, we're the champs again. Super kick party. What? Or have them fight for it. I think, I don't know. There's one avenue that makes a lot of sense to me. And you know what? Tony Khan's probably like, you know what? Our ratings need a jolt. The elite haven't been around for months. People have been wanting them back. Let's give the people what they want. Makes a lot of business sense too. AEW TBS title match. Jade Cargill successfully retained her title, taking it back away from that thief Nyla Rose. I don't have many thoughts about this match. It spilled into the audience. Big scoop by Nyla Rose. Rolling cannonball as well. Beast bomb by Jade. The Jaded by Nyla. So they trade finishers. Can't put each other away. But Jade avoids a senton by Nyla. Bitch sickle kick. And a Jaded for the win. I don't think this was very good. And it pains me to say. It pains me to say every time. Jade has had better matches than this. Nyla's had better matches than this. Something just didn't connect. I think this was a low point on the show. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I really don't want to spend too much time on it because I'm sort of going around in circles when it comes to Jade. I'm excited for Jade to get something. Here's the thing. I enjoyed tremendously their feud. I applaud Twitter shit poster Nyla Rose to be a thing now on Twitter. Her person on AEW, on TV. The personality she has on Twitter translates perfectly on television. She's so charismatic, so entertaining. But you know, there's an imbalance of power in the AEW women's division when it comes to the work. There really is. You know, Jade is still very much a literal rookie. We always see when she's getting better and when she's improving, but there is going to reach a point where Jade's improving has to stop being her narrative. There's going to have to be a point where it's like Jade is paying off in the ring, of course, because I think she's paying off just fine, being one of the most marketable wrestlers that they have on the roster right now, going around doing appearances, and now she's got a thing with little Bow Wow going on. All right, we'll see how that stuff happens, but you know, Jade will not improve if she is not wrestling the top tier wrestling, the top tier wrestlers in the company. She will, if all she wrestles is scrubs. And again, I'm definitely not saying Nyla Rose is a scrub. I think Nyla Rose is a wholly underappreciated and underrated talent. But if all she does is continuously wrestle Sky Blue and Madison Rayne and Marina Shafir, these are not the women who are confident and carry matches and who can help bring out the best in Jade. It's not always a question of smoke and mirrors. Sometimes it's a question of who can get like this magic formula out of her. And there are women on this roster who are capable of doing so, but they're in a world title picture. There's absolutely a discrepancy there. And we get the Ring of Honor World Title 4-Way match where Chris Jericho successfully retained his Ring of Honor title against Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, and Sammy Guevara. I've talked about this multiple times on the show. I am not a fan of 4-ways for championships, but as far as this one went, I thought it was well put together. I thought it avoided all the annoying WWE 4-way trappings that exist. Had just enough creative stuff for me to keep me interested. And this ended up being a lot more fun than I thought. It was this was really well put together. Guevara, off the bat, Guevara and Danielson pair off, and you have Jericho and Castagnoli on the other side. Eventually, the Blackpool Combat Club guys ping pong Chris Jericho. Good solid openings here. We're not starting. The one thing I hate the most of a 4-way, this is it, is 4 guys are in the ring and then 2 guys get taken out and they fall to the outside of the ring and you don't see them for like 2 minutes until the first 2 guys get their shit in, right? And I'm like, why are there 2 guys? Where are the other 2 guys? Did just a drop kick from the onset of a match that knocked them out? What are we even doing? This doesn't even work when they're exhausted. They can still make it back into the ring. So that's an annoyance that I have. Here I thought it was handled well. All 4 guys are fighting, starts with a little chaos. I like me some chaos. Cameras following the action inside the ring, outside the ring. Good stuff. It's good. Anyway, after the BCC guys beat up Jericho, they shake each other's hand, and then they sort of stare each other down. They stare in the audience, and everyone's like, "Yeah, come on, fuck each other up. Come on, let's do it." Go for it. We're here to see you guys kick the shit out of each other. Claudio, Brian Danielson. Let's fucking go. And they go at it. They go at it after the handshake. They grapple quite a bit, which was really cool until Jericho interferes. And they do a double single leg crab on Chris Jericho, which I thought was pretty funny. But Sammy Guevara does a double cutter on the BCC boys to break it up, and Jericho's very thankful for that. So then Jericho and Guevara start working together. Jericho lands a lion salt on both Danielson and Guevara. He goes for a code breaker, covers, but Guevara breaks it up, and that pisses Jericho off. And then they start fighting each other. They slug it out. Another code breaker on Guevara. A little later on, Sammy Guevara tries the hammer and anvil elbows on Danielson, who just plain old no sells. It's like, what are you doing? You've got nothing in those shots. I loved it. There's a Busaiku knee that follows by Danielson onto Claudio. Then Guevara does a Spanish fly on Danielson, who reverses it into a label lock. And then there's a neutralizer. There we go. There's a neutralizer on the floor that's done by Claudio Castagnoli on Danielson. And Guevara hits a shooting star press to the floor. Back in the ring, Claudio does a big swing on Sammy, but Chris Jericho runs in with a Judas effect, which kind of takes out Sammy. I think that was the thing, and then lands another one on Claudio. I think that was the thing. The ending was a little messy, but Jericho retains. I enjoyed this. I don't know. I enjoy being surprised. This was fun. I would have much preferred a singles match, not going to lie, but if you're packing as many people as you can onto the show, put 4 extremely talented wrestlers like these guys, 3 legends, and Sammy. I'm done with Sammy. If Sammy wanted to take a break, I think the best thing for Sammy Guevara right now is to get off of television for a while. I think he's I think he has legitimate go home heat. I think he has legitimate heat with the audience where they're just like, we don't want to see you. He does his shit. It wasn't at Full Gear, but it was at the Go Home show on the Dynamite, where he pulls off some stuff. People cheer, and then once they're done cheering, they start chanting, "You still suck." I mean, I don't think that's good heat. I don't know. Bryan Danielson this week also was saying that he said in an interview, and I'm paraphrasing, that once his contract would be done with AEW, he would no longer be a full-time wrestler. He would want to do part-time. We have got to savor every single moment we have left with this guy. You know, I've said a couple of times, and I don't know if it comes off facetiously or not, because it shouldn't, but for me, in my book, there has never been a greater professional wrestler in North America than Bryan Danielson. He is the best to ever do it. There has never been a more well-rounded, excellent, precise pro wrestler than Bryan Danielson. So it's crazy to think, because he's still pulling out such astounding matches, but he is he's telling us we're on the tail end of the career. So we genuinely have to savor every moment that we have left with him. And I'm using like my mourning voice, but he's not dead. He's not dying. He's fine. The prospect of not having Danielson wrestle anymore is a little strange, is all. Let's move on to Saraya defeating Dr. Britt Baker in her match, in her return match to AEW. And this To AEW, just into wrestling. Period. She hasn't wrestled since 2017. So this was a big deal. Gets physical early on, and Britt Baker is going after the neck. There's no that she zeroes in on it, and I mean look, for anyone who was still concerned trolling and wondering, oh, is she really okay? I mean, Baker does, assisted neck breakers on the floor and hanging neck breakers and spinning neck breakers. If there was any shadow of a doubt, they would not be doing this. They were pulling it off. Britt was looking vicious in this one, diving crossbody off the apron by Saraya. And Britt Baker does an air raid crash and a stomp. Don't forget the stomp is the back of the head again. Like she's, merciless here. Sunset bomb by Saraya and a fisherman's neck breaker by Britt Baker. But 2 rampages gets the job done here. Mixed bag for me, this one here. I am thrilled Saraya can wrestle again. I've maintained, and I try to be as consistent as possible with this, but I've told you all multiple times, I want wrestlers to have long, healthy careers. I don't want them to fall to the wayside. I don't want them to, especially when it comes to injuries, cutting careers short. That shit sucks. Wrestlers they put so much of their body on the line, hone their entire physical self and mental self to do this one specific thing and do it as best as they can. Having an injury just knock you out like that, it sucks. So if Saraya can, again, not unlike Sting, not unlike Christian Cage to a degree, if they can have control over how they go out, as to how they can leave the business, all the more power to them. All the more power to Saraya. I am happy that she's able to do it again. I'm sure it's a relief for her. I'm nothing bad on that front. Absolutely nothing to say. I think Baker did what she could in this match. Used some great psychology in ring. Again, still don't understand why she gets that much hate. She is a very smart worker, but geez, this was clearly a match where someone hasn't worked in years. And not only not someone who hasn't worked in years, someone who spent the majority, let me say that again, who spent a large amount of their career wrestling the WWE style, still in a day where diva style was very much in vogue, okay? Let's not get things confused as to what Saraya did, Paige, whatever you want to call her at the time, what she did to change the perception of women's wrestling, or what a diva, quote unquote, is, a diva versus a wrestler. I'm not taking anything of that away. But the style, still very different, not even remotely as impactful as what we're used to seeing a little more today happening out there with women, right? Women's wrestling. So if you combine the fact that she hasn't wrestled since 2017 and she's been wrestling WWE style, and now she's moving into an area where people work differently here, where work rate in this promotion has more value than strict character presentation. I think that there's something here that there were a lot of dominoes aligned for Saraya to trip up and fail. Was this a failure? No, I don't want to say that. I don't want to use an analogy that gives the impression that I thought this was a disaster. I thought that this was the match I expected. This is why I feel like she should have had a match on Dynamite, just to get the nerves out, just to get the kinks out. how many people were buying the pay-per-view specifically? And I'm asking this like with a certain form of naivete. I'm not trying to use this as a question as a point kind of thing. I mean, but how many people were buying the pay-per-view to see Saraya's return? I'm sure there were, but were they significant enough where if you had seen her on Dynamite, would you have not tuned in? Would you have not bought the pay-per-view? Is my point. And I think if she had worked in front of the audience for the first time on a Dynamite, just to get those first match jitters out, just to stretch her legs, get her footing again. It's different. Any wrestler will tell you that it is different, so different training than it is to get into a ring with 10,000 people around you where you have to perform, the lights are on you and so on and so forth. Got a question here in the chat. Do you think she needs to change her style? I think she has to find a way to take what she's learned and make it into something that is palpable for fans today, because she has been in suspended animation for 5 years effectively. She's literally like, Ripley waking up after the end of Aliens in Aliens 3, and then suddenly like she's in a fucking penal colony and the cat's dead and the little girl's dead and the other Marine is dead and she has to relearn everything. It's like, what the hell is going on here? Might be. It's just, the analogy is a stretch, but you know what I mean. The idea of her like being in suspended animation and then returning to wrestling 5 years later with all its, not to make a pun here, with all its evolutions. I think she has to adapt. I think she has to find a way to make it work. Because there's a lot of women on this card who do not wrestle WWE style. There's a certain new interim champion who does not work WWE style. We'll get to that in a second. Anyway, I didn't think this was great. It was the match that I expected, if that makes sense. But I am thrilled to the gills that Saraya's back and she's able to do it. AEW TNT title 3-way match happened next. Samoa Joe defeated Wardlow and Powerhouse Hobbs to become a champ, becoming the AEW, at the same time, AEW TNT title champion and the Ring of Honor TV title. And this was not what I was expecting at all. This was the big man match, right? This was the one where everyone goes like, look at all this humanity in the ring. Look at all these enormous living mammals that are just wailing on each other. And it just goes nuts. When you see Hobbs suplexing Wardlow, T-boning Samoa Joe, you're like, Jesus Christ. Wardlow's up on the top rope. He sentons off of it. Sentons on Hobbs as well. Huge running shoulder block by Hobbs onto Samoa Joe into the barricade, right? You know what spot I'm talking about. The one that everyone started going, oh no, that looked rough. He is concussed. Oh no. And yet there you go. Samoa Joe was right back up, doing what he does best. Get a powerbomb symphony by Wardlow, but Samoa Joe clocks Wardlow with the TV title, locks in the Coquina clutch on Hobbs, and a shocking finish. My money was on Hobbs here to open up Samoa Joe versus Wardlow for the Ring of Honor title at Final Destination, Final Gear, Final Battle. At Final Battle. At AEW Presents Ring of Honor Final Battle. That's the name of the show, right? I honestly was not expecting that. So now we have another guy with 2 titles. Oh, they should merge the titles. Why? Why merge the title? Why is this instantly a thing? We have to merge the titles. You don't have to. If they do, okay, which title are we getting rid of? I vote to get rid of the TNT title. It has really no history. The Ring of Honor TV title has a very long history. That's the one we should keep. King of the North, nice to see you. Welcome. The best Samoan Joe with 2 belts in wrestling. Look, this was not the finish I was expecting. This was absolutely not the finish I was expecting. But let's go. Let's see what happens. Like at this point, to my point earlier about, going in too hard on the hot takes. I've been surprised. I'm taken off guard. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what we're doing moving forward. If this is a way to reignite Wardlow, this is awesome. If this is a way to reignite the TNT title, this is great as well. There's a buttload of possibilities still here. And there's a Ring of Honor pay-per-view coming up. So, okay, let's do it. And we got the Darby Allin and Sting defeating Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett match. It was a no DQ tag team match. Spills very early into the crowd. Again, into pairs. Jeff Jarrett and Darby Allin on one side, Sting and Jay Lethal on the other. Darby Allin sets up a ladder, to coffin drop off the stage. But he gets caught as he jumps out, but he gets caught midair by Satnam Singh, who does a razor's edge on the stage, on the ramp, right? Just amazing, an amazing visual. Tiny string bean Darby Allin being tossed around by that guy. And then Sting, shortly thereafter, is diving off a balcony onto Satnam Singh. Of course, at this point, it's not even look, at this point, Sting has taken up Jeff Hardy's mantle of, what will Jeff throw himself off of? Or Kota Ibushi, right? What will Kota Ibushi throw himself off of? Now it's Sting. Just amazing stuff. Then back in the ring, stuff happens, and Satnam Singh chokeslams Sting, and Jarrett swats Darby Allin in the back with a guitar as he's doing a coffin drop. Lethal tries to go for the lethal injection, but Sting rolls him into a death drop, or at least, fell back. Look. Darby Allin lands the coffin drop for the win. Fine, fun. Just fun. Everyone knew what they were getting into when the crowd started chanting TNA. When is the last time anyone chanted for TNA in a professional wrestling setting? Do we have to go back to like 2008? I have never heard that ever outside of the Impact Zone. Outside of oh my Lord. Look, I don't have many thoughts on this. This is fine. Again, we'll see what happens with we'll see what goes on with Jeff Jarrett and his on-screen role. I think a Jeff Jarrett on-screen role is best used sparingly. More Jeff Jarrett is not necessarily the best thing. I hope this puts a pin in whatever Darby Allin and Jay Lethal were fighting about, because I don't even know anymore. I'm completely done with that. I've been done with that for a while. And because Darby and Sting were trading looks. It's like, do we pull the trigger on them getting into contention for a title run? Do we pull the trigger on this? Because they're, in the minds of everyone, they're a legitimate tag team. Or do we just go ahead and split them up? Or, you know what I'll tell you what I'd like. I would like AEW to have a World Tag League style tournament, a round robin tournament with AEW tag teams. That's what I would like. I would love a round robin style tournament. Stretch that shit over months. Doesn't have to be all compact like when New Japan or Noah do their round robins. Doesn't have to like, oh, we have to get this done in 2 months. Doesn't have to be. You can stretch that shit out. Have a nice little round robin with the teams, because talking with Kylie and Haley over at Tag Talk during the Full Gear preview show that we did together, we talked about the state of the tag team division a little bit, and we kind of all feel that it's lacking a little bit of the punch and the luster that it had when AEW was starting off, and in the first 18 months or so of it, where tag teams did feel important and did feel significant. I think it's an easy way to rebuild some shine. Just give more opportunities to discover the tag teams, or to rediscover them. You can throw a couple of singles guys in there, to take the pins throughout the tournament. That's not a big deal. Or you put in Camarado and Solo. Again, not a big deal. I think there's a lot of look. I love tag team wrestling, and I think wrestling is perfect for. Excuse me. Let me say that again. I love tournament wrestling, and I think wrestling is perfect for tournaments. And it's easy stakes. It's an easy way for people to get into stuff. It's an easy talking point for fans online. Like, I don't know why they're no, not that I don't know, but I think it would be very good to get a round robin style tournament in AEW specifically for the tag teams, which I feel are hurting a little. AEW Interim Women's World Title match. Jamie Hayter defeated Toni Storm. Well, how about that for egg on your face, Warren? You dumb shit. You thought you were so smart, saying, "Oh, it's not Jamie's time yet." I still think it's a little soon. I still think it's a little bit lame to have her win the interim title. But millions of Jamie Hayter fans can't be wrong. This starts off with some feeling out until Storm hip attacks her to the floor. Back in the ring, Hayter is in control. Chops in a shoulder breaker as well. And Jamie Hayter here, I want to underscore this. Jamie Hayter has a heat segment, right, in the match, and she's being a dick. And this is what I mean. When I say that, the most naturally organic wrestlers in the women's division got over organically, did so by their in-ring work. Jamie Hayter, Serena Deeb, Riho, Hikaru Shida, Willow Nightingale all got over because of their work, not because of their promo skills, not because of wacky storylines. They got over not because they're able to carry a promo segment, but because they're able to carry a goddamn match. So when I see Jamie Hayter playing to the crowd, taunting the audience, right? Playing to the camera, to the hard cam, doing all that, I'm like, this is why she's over. Because she's a fantastic pro wrestling presence. She can go, and then on top of that, she has all the in-ring charisma that you want. There's gonna be people who are gonna be like, "Oh, she can't cut it on the stick." Who cares? Look at how much she got herself over, and this is the main difference with how the AEW women's division is treated, and where I think Tony is starting to understand this, where the women get over in AEW through their work, They're able, they're capable, and the audience gets behind it. The AEW audience is much more in tune with work rate than the other place. And I've pointed this out multiple times. In the lead up, they were doing very New Japan style Road to matches where you have the champion and a couple of other people who may have feuds with other people on the other side, having 6-woman matches or tag matches. That's a very New Japan way to do it, but that's how you get your people over. That's why people look back and say, you know what, Toni Storm, that was a good run. That was a good run that she got going there. It's like, because they had her wrestling. They had her wrestling in matches that felt that mattered, instead of having her try to cut promos. And Hayter proved it, that this is the reason she got over, because of everything she does in ring. And that is always where it has always mattered in pro wrestling. Hip attack and a flying crossbody by Toni Storm followed a tornado DDT. They start striking each other. Toni Storm busted open. Her nose starts bleeding. Rebel interferes, which allows Toni Storm to hit a Rainmaker on Jamie Hayter. Shortly after that, Toni Storm falls to the floor. Britt Baker arrives and stomps Toni Storm on the floor head first into the belt, into the interim championship belt. We get back to the ring. Jamie Hayter lands a Storm Zero, trying to put Toni Storm away with her own move, and that doesn't quite work. Toni Storm fights back with a German and a Storm Zero herself. That's not enough. Britt Baker removes the corner pad, and it looks like it's all going to fall apart for Jamie Hayter here. It's like Britt is fumbling. She's on top of everything just looks complete garbage, but she being Jamie Hayter, tosses Toni Storm into the exposed turnbuckle. Rainmaker. I know they're not calling it the Rainmaker, but bear with me. Rainmaker by Jamie Hayter for the win. Now, I was wrong. As I said, I predicted Jamie Hayter would lose this one. So congrats to her. I mean, because look, there's no reason why you shouldn't put the belt on someone who's over. And I mean, right now, she's one of the most over acts in the company. Sure. You saw with the Acclaimed what happened. Again, we brought it up during the Full Gear prediction show. What do you do? Do you do a Swerve in Our Glory versus the Acclaimed like at All Out, where the audience was a little deflated that the Acclaimed didn't win? Do you do that kind of stuff here? I mean, that's also, it's also a very fair consideration. I think sending an audience home happy is more important than a lot of things. Hayter here was fantastic. And maybe there was a little too much interference, right? I'm just going to put just a little caveat here, because this is just a little inkling that's in the back of my brain here. And I just want to share it with you. Just so that, maybe there was a little too much interference here. And it kind of sucks, because I don't feel like it's a confident win. Oh, Warren, they did this to protect Toni Storm so that she can still look strong. Christ, I understand. Okay, it's fine. Thank you in advance. But we've talked about this before, about champions not having true to form big wins, having confident wins. We've talked about this and how poorly it reflects. Now we're going to head towards Jamie Hayter's reign now. Let's see how she fares moving forward, because we have very recent examples in another promotion of title wins of title holders being booked very unconfidently, where it's clear that the booking committee isn't exactly behind them. Well, I just want to mention that because I felt the ending. There was a lot of stuff, and I'm wondering, did we need so much of this chicanery to get to the big payoff? Let's see how Jamie Hayter's reign turns out. Again, I'm not diving into hot take culture here, but I am suspicious. It's a very odd message that was put out. But again, congratulations to Jamie Hayter and Tony Storm. Look, Tony Storm coming up here, getting a good chance to shine after winning the interim title, and has just been was part of these people that started carrying the division on her back. And I think a lot of people got acquainted with how good Tony Storm was during her reign. Maybe it wasn't the most spectacular one with the most wins and the biggest profile victories throughout her reign here, but it is definitely one that turned people more into what Tony Storm is about. Maybe a lot of us who saw her back in the day when she was running the indies in the UK and were familiar with her work before WWE sank her claws into her. Maybe we're able to see, a lot of people were able to get acquainted with her and say, you know what? She's very good. And she was very good. And she was a solid performer, a very good pro wrestler. I don't think this is her last reign by any stretch of the imagination. I just hope they continue to put her in positions where she continues to look strong, to wrestle, because that's how she got herself over. Once again, that's how she got herself over. In WWE, she had to take a pie to the face, and even that didn't work. And we had the AEW World Tag Team title match where the Acclaimed successfully retained their titles against Swerve and Our Glory. I enjoyed this. I think just for time, I'm going to skip over this one a little more here because I do a couple of other things that I do want to talk about in another show and so on and so forth. But I enjoyed this match, but I think this, out of the three that the guys had, I think this is the one that I liked the least. Don't get me wrong, like, this wasn't a bad match by any stretch of the imagination. I think this was a very competent, a fun tag team match here with a lot of good elements here. I appreciated the little tidbits, the little creativity here, and how they got to certain elements, like certain spots, I should say. Like, for instance, how they got to Keith Lee taking the bump off of the apron through the guardrail. I liked how we got to that. Lots of great double team efforts here. Of course, this all comes to a head when Swerve gets the pliers again and wants to use them, but Keith Lee refuses. He doesn't want this to happen. Billy Gunn comes out, of course, to try and keep him from using the pliers, distracts the ref, and then Keith Lee tries to use them, tries to get Keith Lee to use them. Keith Lee says no. Swerve slaps him. Keith Lee is like, all right, man, I'm hitting the showers. It's all you from this point on. So we have a clear line in the sand that's been drawn. Now, is this a turn? Are we splitting this team up? I think, like, there's enough precedent in AEW for us to sit here and go, maybe this is just more tension. Maybe we're not done with Swerve and Our Glory just yet. Or maybe we are. Maybe this is just a classic, like, nope, this is it. This is where everything falls apart. Which could be. Or they could reconciliate and, Swerve being a bit of a, being a bit of a carny, could, sweet talk Keith Lee into one more match. Not necessarily against the Acclaim. I think we're good here. But he could sweet talk Keith Lee into another match and backstab him this time around. This was pretty good. As I said, I think it was the least compelling out of their triumvirate of matches. But a good rubber match, solid closing of the chapter here. And we're ready to open another book for the Acclaim, for Swerve in Our Glory. I think we're good here. Again, just great stuff for the Acclaimed. And our world title match then happened where MJF defeated Jon Moxley to become the new AEW World Champion. And MJF was in a mood. Oh, he was playing to the crowd and just feeling every moment of it. Mox him dominated for the majority of this match. He played the heel. He antagonized the crowd. Hits a Falcon Arrow right into a Jujikatami. MJF on his end uses some classic babyface tropes here. Mox got booed. MJF got cheered. They played it straight down that line. MJF sets up a table. Back in the ring, Mox head stomps him. MJF lands a tombstone on the apron, but hurts his knee in the process, quote unquote. Mox gets him back out onto the apron and pile drives him off the apron through the table, which was a great spot. MJF just breaks the 10 count and eats a paradigm shift, out of which he kicks. Mox kicks the knee, locks in a figure 4, which is eventually reversed. MJF lands a heat seeker. They're on the top rope, hammer and anvil, elbows by Mox, and then hits a super paradigm shift. MJF, a little later on, pulls the ref in front of Mox. Regal comes out just as Mox is pulling out the Dynamite Diamond ring out of his trunks. Bit of a pretty good close-up of his trunks there. Pretty good close-up of Max sticking his hands down into his shorts that maybe I wasn't necessarily ready for. I could have been prepared. Could have had a trigger warning on that one. Regal comes out. That's it. And he's telling him, don't use it. And he doesn't. He tosses it away. Mox then tries to choke out MJF, but that they bump into the new ref that came to the ring, and that allows Regal to throw the brass knuckles to Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Wasn't an accident. And he wins the belt, god damn it, because of the knucks. And William Regal was the devil all along. Isn't that great? Isn't that exactly the kind of stuff where you're like, it's not a swerve. It's not something where you're like, they just pulled this out of nowhere. No, you look back, you just listen to some things. You go back and you listen to that promo where MJF and was confronting William Regal. And they set the seeds right there. They were basically telling us what was going to happen right there. Everything was set in motion. It was just so well encapsulated. Some good stuff. MJF, fulfilling the prophecy, becomes AEW World Champion, which he probably was supposed to win off of CM Punk. That would be my guess. I think that's a pretty safe bet there. But I think this is good. I think this is good because right now I think MJF is for the AEW fans. I don't think there's anyone more significant that could wear the title. I think there is. He is absolutely the most significant person to be wearing the championship title, as opposed to just about anyone else in the company. Because I think the fans gravitated to him because of. They didn't want him to leave. I think, the scare of April earlier this year. I think when he walked out of the company after the Wardlow match, I think that, a lot of people were I think a lot of people were truly worried that he was going to leave. So now that he is, in a position to be on top, everyone is really happy for him to be there and that he chose to stay there. So they want to make sure that they know that he's appreciated, that he knows that he's appreciated, excuse me. I think there's tremendous value in MJF as a guy who wrestles a very, very strong match. Very great. He is such a good in-ring storyteller. He does so much with so little, it's preposterous. I love this. And Mox's reign, Mox has been he's been the break glass in an emergency guy since June. He has been at the forefront to make sure that people get compelling matches, that storylines continue to make sense. He has not given up a single beat in trying to be the best that he can be. I feel like over the past couple of weeks in his promos, I felt like he was maybe a little exhausted, maybe a little tired. It's been a hell of a run because on top of that, he's wrestling everywhere. He's in the indies. He's going up and down. I think exhaustion might have been setting in a little bit. His promos weren't necessarily up to snuff. So I'm, everyone's saying now he can take his vacation, so on and so forth. Hopefully he can take some time off. I think he deserves it. But this is a guy who took the company on his back when all this shit was happening, when everything was crumbling apart, when the top guy, when the number one draw of the company decided to do what he did and pick fights with other top guys in the company. He was like, look, let's sift through the nonsense and let's get out here and fucking put on shows. Let's wrestle. Let's do this shit. You couldn't have put it on a better guy. Because to me, Jon Moxley is pro wrestling in 2022. This is a guy who absolutely defines what it means to go out, turn out every single time, wrestle solid, compelling matches. A bruiser, a brawler. No nonsense. Man of the people, coming through the crowd. Close with the audience. I think he had a very significant run as interim world champion and as world champion proper. Because when that didn't work out, what did they do? They strapped him up. And now this made sense that Moxley passes it on to the next big star. Now the big test for MJF is going to begin. Now we're going to start scrutinizing the man a little more because everyone, the general consensus is MJF is a draw. MJF is the guy. He can talk. He can do anything. He's a superstar. He says it himself, generational talent, and I have a tendency to agree with that. Will it hold up? Let's see how MJF's title reign holds up. Will ratings improve? Will pay-per-view buys improve? There's going to be a lot of metrics that are going to be really, really scrutinized now that MJF, the darling, the guy that everyone sees, the guy in which everyone sees an infinite pool of talent. Is this the guy who can indeed carry this company? He's got the opportunity right here. This is exciting, folks. I'm not trying to shut anything down. All I'm saying is that this is exciting. Going to be some very interesting stories to tell moving forward here. I liked the main event quite a bit. I thought it was very, very strong. My kind of match. And all in all, for AEW Full Gear 2022, I thought this was a top tier show from top to bottom. Very, very, very good show. It's probably going to be in my top 5 this year. I would say Forbidden Door, off the top of my head, Forbidden Door is still, on my short list, probably a little higher. Battle Autumn, I thought Battle Autumn was a stronger show than this, but this was very good. Much better than All Out. Don't even, like, we're in another completely other planet here. We are going to talk about New Japan and Stardom's historic crossover show that happened this weekend on November 20 from the Ariake Arena in Tokyo, Japan. An attendance of 7,000 people that showed up for a pandemic era show with no clapping and not a full capacity. So this was very good business for New Japan. Lots of people made it to the show. I want to talk about it because it is a historic event. First time on a New Japan show that women are featured so prominently. Of course, this comes from the corporate synergy existing with their common ownership, Bushiroad. We're going to see a lot more of this. We're going to see a lot more pollinization between New Japan and Stardom moving forward. Stardom, actually the opposite. New Japan is absolutely going to be used to try and drag more eyeballs to Stardom, which is absolutely on a business uptick. The gates that they've been doing throughout 2022 absolutely have placed New Japan as the second biggest wrestling company in Japan, right behind New Japan Pro Wrestling. No, not Noah, not DDT, not by a long shot. Noah hasn't been doing great business. Neither has DDT. All Japan's been in the pits. So just upticks of business for Stardom. We are going to have to expect more of this moving forward. This was a very interesting show that was put together on the basis of discovering the Stardom wrestlers. I think there was a lot of focus that was put on that, and interviews and promos and promotion that was put out in regards to New Japan and in regards to the show, I should say. There was a lot of promotion that turned around that was focused on, hey, come watch this New Japan show and, discover the Stardom wrestlers, and we're going to make you love Stardom. There was a lot of that was pumped into this match. Was it a success? Let's talk about it. First of all, we had the pre-show. We had the LA Dojo guys, Alex Coughlin, Clark Connors, Gabriel Kidd, and Kevin Knight defeating Kosei Fujita, Oscar Loeb, Roihei Oiwa, and Yuto Nakashima, The LA Dojo guys won. Good to see Gabriel Kidd back in the swing of things. I hope that he is in a better mental place because he is an extremely talented pro wrestler. Oscar Loeb coming out of Germany, now training in Japan. That guy is tall. He's lanky. Like there's something to this dude. And apparently he's wrestled in WXW, which I have not seen. But fun little match to open. That's fine. We had a Stardom Rambo, where they just threw a whole bunch of the Stardom crew on there. Anyone who wasn't involved already in matches on the main card, that was all right. Mirai won. I'm not going to sit here and walk you through a fucking Royal Rumble or Rambo. But now we move on to the main card. Started off with an 8-man tag match where Tomohiro Ishii, Yoshihashi, and Lio Rush defeated the House of Torture organization of Dick Togo, Evil, Sho, and Yujiro Takahashi. There is nothing that gets you more hype for a show than starting off a show watching Dick Togo and Yujiro wrestle. Look, I'm not going to spend much time on this. I don't have many thoughts. This was all right. Nothing out of the ordinary. This was basically, though, to set up happenings for World Tag League and Super Junior Tag League, as Yo and Lio Rush are involved in World Tag League. Dick Togo and Evil as well. But honestly, not Dick Togo and Sho, right? Excuse me. So this was a Super Junior Tag League setup here. This is one of the little criticisms I have about this show. Is that there's a couple of matches on this card here, which was a pay-per-view. Like, not something that I just tune into with my New Japan subscription, right? I had to pay for the show. When I say I say we, I say you. We all had to pay for the show. So my criticism here is that, look, I'm okay with New Japan doing Road 2 shows. That's what they're for. I understand the booking concept, but if I'm paying to watch a pay-per-view, paying more money to watch a show, I'm not super stoked to have Road 2 type matches on this card that I'm shelling extra money out for, if that makes sense. Then we get a 6-women tag match. All Stardom women here, where the Queen's Quest troupe of Izumi, Lady C and Saya Kamitani, defeated the Donna Del Mondo group of Himeka, Mai Sakurai, and Tekla. I thought this was a fine little match where all the women got some shine here. Lady C did a giant swing. Himeka did a fireman carry on both Izumi and Kamitani, and then drops them into a Samoan drop, which was cool. Northern Light suplex by Sakurai. Coup de grace by Izumi, and the Firebird by Kamitani gets the win. It was a fun little match. Then we had the first of multiple mixed gender match styles, mixed match style matches. Where this one here, we had Zack Sabre Jr. and Julia defeating Tom Lawler, the filthy Tom Lawler, and Shuri. This was a fantastic pairing and a really dope match to boot. If anything, I think out of the mixed match matches that we had here, basically where the women fight the women and the men fight the men, right? I think this was the one that I preferred. I think this was my favorite one because the action was really good, and it brought out the personalities of all the wrestlers who were involved, because there was a lot of this on this card here, making you understand, making you feel for the personalities of these wrestlers, especially the Stardom women, getting to know who they are and how they interact, how they interact in the ring, how they build stories in the ring. And these pairings here weren't very off track. They meshed rather well with each other. Tom Lawler here in this match had the time of his life. I absolutely believe he had the absolute time of his life. And this is a guy, he's a recent convert to Stardom. He watched the Shuri Utami match from last year. That one, the big one, the 5.5 star one. He watched that and went absolutely ape shit for it. And from that point on, he's been a Stardom evangelist. He's been telling people, anyone who will listen, and even those who won't listen, watch Stardom. It's the best women's wrestling in the world, which it is. There's and I'm convinced that he'd be calling when he heard about the crossover show, whenever that happened. I'm convinced he was speed dialing Rocky Romero every 3 hours, telling Rocky, "Get me on this show. I want to be on a match with Shuri. I want to be her tag partner. You're doing mixed match tag matches. I want to be with Shuri. I absolutely have to wrestle with this woman." And this is what we got here. One of the women who got him into wrestling, into Stardom, is right there with him. This was a fantastic pairing, like I said. And so was Zack Sabre Jr. and Julia. Just fantastic stuff. And lots of grappling between Zack and Lawler throughout the match. Great early spot early on where they leg lock Lawler and Zack, and they try to reverse and roll out of it until they tumble onto the floor while still holding on to the move, and then the women jump off and start putting the boots to the other dude. to to try and get their partner out of it. Just good stuff. And then later on, Shiri and Julia, who will be fighting each other, by the way, at the December 29 Stardom show, the Dream Queendom 2022 show. Shiri will be defending the World of Stardom title against Julia. So for the big belt, the big red belt, they start slugging it out. So Julia and Shiri, they're opponents. They're slugging each other. They're slugging it out in the ring. Tom Lawler comes in and he steps in between both of them and he pushes Julia and he's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And then both Julia and Shiri then turn on Lawler because they're like, "Hey man, let us do our thing. Let us fight." Like he thought he was coming in there sort of like to save the day. It's like, "Hey, I'll watch out for you. For you ladies, it'll be fine." But they're like, "No, fuck off, Tom." So they both double team him, which I thought was pretty fun. Zack Sabre Jr. and Julia have Stereo Cobra twists in the ring. Lawler reverses out of his into a stretch plum. Then Zack Sabre Jr. reverses that into an arm breaker. Lawler reverses that into an ankle lock. That ends with a Uranagi, but Zack Sabre Jr. gets the win with a Euro clutch. I enjoyed this match quite a bit. I enjoyed the personalities that were involved. And two extremely charismatic women in Julia and Shiri as well. And Shiri's no slouch. She's got all the fighting backgrounds. She could kick your ass in multiple ways. And I'm very stoked for this, for her match against Julia in December, in just a little over a month's time. This was good. I enjoyed it. Fun. Good. And we had an 8-person tag match here where the Suzuki-gun boys of Taichi and Yoshinobu Kanemaru teamed up with Tam Nakano and Natsupoi, a.k.a. Meltier, which is the name of their tag team, to take on the other Suzuki-gun boys of Doki and El Desperado, teaming up with Black Desire, a.k.a. Momo Watanabe and Starlight Kid of Odeyo Tai. And this was probably the match I was most looking forward to outside of the main event, because the personalities here are all just fantastic. Odeyo Tai and Stardom, in case you don't know, they're a heel faction. Like they're the worst. They're the dirt worst. And Suzuki-gun, if you watch New Japan even remotely, they're the scumbags. Like, they're so you're teaming up Doki and El Desperado with Momo and Starlight Kid. Like they're the lovable scumbags. That's all they are. I was so excited to see this. And this was well set up at the press conference. And here's something I forgot to mention in the previous match. Every person who was present at the press conference for the crossover match and who were involved in these mixed tag matches here, all of them said the same thing. We kind of think it stinks that there's this rule that the men can't fight the women, but we're going to do it anyway. And all throughout these matches, there was a lot of crossover action. There was a lot of intergender popping up here. Everyone was sort of like, nah, we're going to do it anyway. Fuck you. I respect that. We get a bunch of stuff. We get some classics like Odeyo Tai. Odeyo Tai always come with the full crew, and they pile up on Kanemaru at some point. The mixed tag rules here, as I was mentioning, they're used very creatively. The Suzuki-gun boys don't have any issues going after each other. Kanemaru and Natsupoi use stereo Whiskey Mist, like Kanemaru does, but he brought a bottle for Natsupoi. Natsupoi uses it, and she's so summery and cute and adorable and pure, right? Because she can't stand the taste of it, of the whiskey. She's like, she's freaking out, but she spits the mist anyway. Match ends with stereo super kicks by Taichi and Tam Nakano, and Taichi lands Black Mephisto for the win. And after the match, Taichi puts over Tam to the audience as well. Eventually, there was a reason for this, but fun little match. I enjoyed this. There's a lot of, again, lots of personality to these matches, which was a lot of fun. And I still have in my brain Starlight Kid, El Desperado telling Starlight Kid, I'm going to get us a match against Jun Kasai and Rina Yamashita. I'm going to make that happen. And I'm like, ugh. Other mixed match, tag match here, where Hiroshi Tanahashi and Utami Hayashishita defeated Hiroki Goto and Maika. This was all right. I think the pairing of Goto and Maika was just chef's kiss perfect. Like both, samurai types, way of the warrior kind of thing. It just brilliant pairing on that one. Tanahashi and Utami were maybe a bit of an odd couple where, Tanahashi's, he's very flamboyant and Utami's all fucking business. But it still worked. And look, even Tanahashi in this match decides he's going for Maika. Even like, the ace of the universe, the top baby face, play by the rules, top dude, Hiroshi Tanahashi, the hero. It's like, no, I'm breaking these rules too. But he eats a backdrop suplex from Maika. So that'll learn him. Anyway, Utami gets the win with the hijack bomb. That's fine. Again, fun little match. Then we had a 10-man tag match where the United Empire troupe of Francisco, Akira, Gideon Gray, Kyle Fletcher, Mark Davis, a.k.a. Aussie Open, and TJP defeated the LIJ crew, everyone except Titan. Is Titan a part-time member? I don't know what this is. Anyway. This was all right, nothing out of the ordinary, which is in fact a little disappointing because the 10-man tags with LIJ are usually so much fun. They're usually so much fun. And you had the whole crew here. When was the last time we had all 5 guys together? Well, minus Titan, but who gives a shit right now about Titan? Again, this was another Road to match, to set up World Tag League, Super Junior Tag League matches. You don't need it. Not on these shows. And honestly, I was a little disappointed. Getting up onto the upper tier, the main event situations. But first, I want to say hi to the Bob Culture Podcast. How you doing, Rob? Thank you for stopping by. We had the Great Muda's final match in New Japan, where he teamed up with the Chaos dudes of Kazuchika Okada and Toru Yano as they defeated the United Empire trio of Aaron Henare, Jeff Cobb, and the Great Okan. I mean, I don't have many thoughts on this match. I really don't. I thought it wasn't great. It was fine. There was a lot of good work by people not named Muda here. Aside from Muda misting the Great Okan, whom he had been feuding with, this was the thing, this was the deal. This had been set up for a while. And he misted the Great Okan with the red mist. Aside from that, Muda's last hurrah in New Japan was very much a whimper. And the red mist is significant, right? Because usually you'll see the green mist. If my Japanese mist lore is correct, the green mist is it doesn't blind you. It obstructs your vision. The red mist is considered to be more potent and it burns. Okay, so it's not just a question of I cannot see. It's like being pepper spray, essentially. And there's other colors as well, like black, for instance. It blinds you temporarily, but for weeks. It's like for weeks. But anyway, I could be. I'm not gonna. We're not gonna break down the the colors of mist in Japanese wrestling today. Not today. It's Kazuchika Okada who gets the win, who gets a Rainmaker for the win. So Keiji Muto, the great Muta, basically worked exactly how you think he would work, especially if you saw some of his Noah matches. You know exactly what you were getting into. You know exactly what he was doing. So that's the thing. So the interesting elements that I take away from here is that, okay, Muta right now, Muta over the past 2 years or so, he's been wrestling in Noah and has been to some observers, including myself, has been a bit of a detriment to the evolution of the company because he's been putting no one over and he doesn't have the work rate anymore. He can't go anymore. And in a place like Noah, where work rate, where a wrestling promotion like Noah should be something that Warren Hayes should be talking about every week, because it is exactly the type of wrestling that I thrive on. But they've been pushing a lot of the old guard for multiple reasons, and I don't want to get into it right here and there. And Muta has been at the forefront of all of these shenanigans. It's legitimately like if Hulk Hogan landed in AEW and was like, okay, well, I have to be the world champion. I have to be on top of everything. It's kind of like that. Muta, don't get me wrong, great Muta, Keiji Muto, legend in the business. If he wants to have a retirement run and wrestle all over the place, and he is absolutely entitled to that. He is a superstar. He is a legend in the business of professional wrestling. So that's not what I'm arguing about here. But Muto coming in here, because he's been, he finally put over one of the young guys over in Japan, in Noah. But he's been, covering everyone. He hasn't been losing to anyone. In an environment where hard work and work rate is so important. Having broken down old 60-year-old Keiji Muto, unable to string too much offense together because he's getting gassed, is kind of embarrassing. So when he got here, was Gedo like, no, man, you're not covering one of my. You're not covering one of my new guys. Especially not Great-O-Khan. I like Great-O-Khan. We're making big things out of Great-O-Khan. He is not jobbing out to Keiji Muto, to the Great-O-Khan. Great-O-Khan's like, well, I'm not taking no pins. Like, all right, well, you're not pinning my guy. Because Okada got the win on Keiji Muto's last match. And you know something's up. You know something's up when you've been following all the shenanigans with Keiji Muto. You know something's up because Kazuchika Okada extends a hand and the guy won't shake his hand. So, okay. Can't put anyone over, can you? Muta. No one. Didn't even shake the hand of the guy who has been the backbone of New Japan, who is one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. Objectively. Can't shake his hand. And then he walks up the ramp, and I'm sure I wasn't the only one who saw this. Turns around, he does one of these, and he does one of these to the audience, and I'm like, what the fuck? What is this guy doing? You saw that. I can't be the only person who saw that. He started flipping off the crowd. What is going on? Or the crowd, or whoever was in the ring. But this was a minimal effort thing. And I'm going to tell you, from what I saw here, I don't get excited for any matches that Keiji Muto has up his sleeve moving forward. He's going to have his big retirement match where Sting is going to be there. He has his Noah match against Shinsuke Nakamura. Don't think that the match with Shinsuke Nakamura is going to be this blessed affair. It's going to be a train wreck. He's got a one-on-one match. We had a 6-man tag here. Muto could barely go. He's broken. Anyway. Before we get to the main event, we had the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship defended by Will Ospreay, who retained successfully against Shota Umino. I enjoyed this match. Thought it was a lot of fun, of course. Kind of right up my speed, too. This one was Eat It Hurley. Shota and Will each having great heat segments. Shota Umino has a shotgun diving dropkick and another one to Ospreay's head. There's a cannonball senton off the apron, fisherman suplex, and some hammer and anvil elbows by Umino. Little wink to his dad here. By the way, we continue here to call Shota Umino by his given name, which is Shooter Shota Umino. None of this roughneck business. I don't know who came up with that. We're calling Shota by his given name. Will Ospreay hits a pescado and he lands hard on Umino, who also answers with a pop-up powerbomb, and he runs the ropes, jumps, hits a Liger bomb by Will Ospreay right in the air. Follows up with cheeky Nando's, a Falcon Arrow, and a Firebird. Oscutter blocked and reversed. In and out until Will Ospreay lands a Liger bomb. And finally, he lands an Oscutter, excuse me. Ospreay stomps and strikes in the back of Umino's head and is doing so very viciously. Some precise strikes. He's trying to get Red Shoes Umino, who is Shota's dad, to call the match. Kind of like what happened at Royal Quest 2. And it looks like the ref is about to call the match, but Umino, Shota, Shooter, grabs his leg and keeps him from doing so. He stumbles back to his feet, eats a super kick. He fights right back up to his feet again and into a Chelsea Green by Will Ospreay. Umino ducks a hidden blade, a rolling neck breaker, follows by Umino. We go in and out of Stormbreaker and Death Rider attempts. This all leads to a hidden blade, followed by a Stormbreaker by Will Ospreay for the win. I think I enjoyed the Royal Quest 2 match more than this one. When I saw their Royal Quest 2 match, I was like, oh, these guys have another one in the chamber. I feel like they're holding back a little bit. I didn't quite feel this one hit the gears that the show in England did. Although I enjoyed this match quite a bit. I didn't think it hit as hard. But now we're going to talk about what happened after the match. Well, okay, because you see here's the thing. When the match ended, I'm just going to walk you through my thought process. When the match ended here, I was like, this is an interesting booking decision to make Shota's big match, because this was a big match for him. It was interesting to make his big match a fail, make him lose. I think he, could have won the US title, and he has a feud with Ospreay. We can always come back to it. But when Umino did show up at Battle Autumn, he came out after the main event. He felt like a big deal. He had the Tron with his name on it. He came in through the audience. He did the whole 9 yards. Outsmarted the United Empire. Got a shot in at Will Ospreay. You're like, oh shit. When New Japan Brass was talking about leaning into, these young, hungry, handsome guys moving forward, but, focus on young. It's like, okay, well, here we go. They're strapping a rocket to him, but maybe not quite exactly. And I was like, well, this is weird. What an interesting decision they did here. But then I understood why they did it, because Kenny Omega's face shows up on the Tron and challenges Will Ospreay to a match at Wrestle Kingdom. So the match that everyone was sort of hoping would happen is indeed happening, because Ospreay and Omega have been trading barbs with each other for the past better part of the year so far. And that was very, very, so that got a lot of people excited into the prospect of this match here. And now we're getting it. So I'm like, okay, so I understand, because this is a big deal match for Wrestle Kingdom. So I can understand where you're like, I don't necessarily want Will Ospreay to come off as weak in this particular match. I want him to be strong, look the part, come in as a winner. But then again, like, this match is bigger than the title. Kevin Kelly said it himself. Said this is bigger than the IWGP US title, and it really is. Like, the title is extremely secondary to the whole affair. So why not just? So there's that, but there's also like, why not just strap up? Why not just strap up our boy Umino here and let Will Ospreay go have a special singles match at Wrestle Kingdom, which is going to be a draw, which a lot of people are going to get a New Japan subscription to watch, It was, I can see the decision. I can see the logic behind him keeping the title, because you do want him to look strong going into a match against Kenny Omega. But I don't think it would have been that big a deal either. I think it would have benefited Shota Umino a lot more. Unless they're looking at him backstage and said, you know what, he's not ready, not quite ready just yet for a championship profile, which is fair as well. But then this leads us to the main event, IWGP Women's Title Tournament final match. Kairi Hojo, Kairi Sane, depending on who you're speaking to, defeated Mayu Iwatani to become the first IWGP Women's Champion. I thought this match was excellent. I thought this match was top tier. Excellent. Just a great build. Mayu getting the initial leg up, sending Kairi to the floor, hits a dive, and a tremendous missile drop kick. She starts wrenching the arm, and the arm of Kairi Sane, which was injured in a match just on the previous night, becomes a bit of the story of the match here, and becomes the thing where you're like, oh, well, is she going to be able to pull it off because her arm hurts? Her finisher is the insane elbow, so on and so forth. Kairi lands an interceptor, spear, and an axe kick, a drop kick, and a sliding drop kick. Sends Mayu to the floor. They fight up the ramp. Mayu hits a snapmare and a PK. Kairi hits a huge flying elbow strike off the top rope, and a huge back fist as well. What did she call it? The cutlass? And a drop kick to the stomach that is just like a gut busting drop kick. Ridiculous. Frankensteiner by Mayu. She starts a fight back. She goes back up. Frog splash. Hits a sling blade. She wipes out on the moonsault though and eats an enormous interceptor right into the corner by Kairi. Kairi locks in the anchor, and Jesus, does she lean into it. If Mayu Iwatani could fold over herself, Kairi would have made sure it happened. That was outstanding. Get a tombstone by Mayu, a dragon suplex into a bridge. Mayu runs the ropes and into another cutlass. Kairi hits an Alabama slam and an insane elbow. She goes back up, hits another insane elbow, but her arm hurts, right? So she's not getting like full strength, full impact. Mayu kicks out. Mayu hits a crucifix bomb and another dragon suplex with bridge and another dragon suplex with bridge. But she eats another back fist from Kairi. And finally, one more insane elbow gets the win. Mwah. Your first legend IWGP Women's Champion, Kairi. Bit of a shocker to me. I thought that, Stardom stalwart Mayu Iwatani came in the company in 2012, 2013, was part of the, what were they calling them? Not the Three Musketeers, the three daughters of Stardom, right? Mayu, Io, and Kairi. What did Io and Kairi do? They fucked off. They left. Mayu stayed. It's always been in Stardom. She's never left Stardom. I was like, this is it. And Kairi's a part-timer. So I was like, well, there you go. This is how we are going to wrap up her career, being Mayu's, because she's talking about retirement slowly, just dropping hints. It's like, okay. It would have been a hell of a feather in her cap, a great way to, because she's the John Cena of Stardom. She's the Hiroshi Tanahashi of Stardom. She's the icon. She's the face. So I'm a little surprised, but also it's a decision that makes sense if they want to use Kairi to get more international attention moving inward. Kairi's well known in the US. She has a following. She has people who still follow her today. People who prayed to Papa H to sign her back. Add her to the gauntlets. So I can understand that as well. Like if they want to add Kairi Sane or Kairi period, right, to New Japan of America cards, have her come over with the title, that's instant attention right there. I thought this was an uneven card, but overall I enjoyed it. I think there's more good than bad here. Now, the question that I had, finishing up this card, was will this create more viewers for Stardom? Was the Stardom showcase enough for people who have never watched it or who's been in the New Japan bubble to go like, I'll go check this out, subscribe to Stardom World and so on and so forth? Is this enough? And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how to. I'm not sure how. I'm not sure how to feel about it, because while the personalities there's a lot of good stuff that. Let me start this over. The women they decided to put in the mixed tags were the perfect choices. Very larger than life personalities, great in-ring presences. A lot of it made sense. Good stories, and good stories with the guys that they were paired up with as well. Like everything connected. But I feel like it wasn't as much of a Stardom. I don't know how much it will convert people to watch Stardom, because there weren't many Stardom matches on the card. There was the one six woman tag, which was all right, and the main event. Mayu and Kairi was great, don't get me wrong, but I think bringing a little more of the Stardom flavor to the show would have been beneficial. I think a good old-fashioned high-speed match. Get Izumi out of the six-woman tag. Put her in a singles. Have her give us some of these little nuggets that make Stardom really, really special. And I think the high-speed wrestlers that they have is absolutely part of the flavor that makes Stardom stand apart. I absolutely believe that. You know, we honestly did not need World Tag League and Super Junior Tag League builds on this card. We could have had one, which would have been fine, substituted with another Stardom match. I think there was some good things. There's, again, strong personalities. Starlight Kid, Momo, Mayu in and about herself, right? Julia, Shuri, very, very strong personalities. But I think that I think you could have allowed Stardom to shine more in this match. It felt more like hey, we're New Japan and we're introducing you to all these great women wrestlers that work in the same company as we do. That's how it kind of felt, which isn't a bad thing. All I'm saying is there could have been more room. There could have been more room for some Stardom here. So I don't know if this. I'm curious. Be curious to see how many people, how much this converts into new Stardom watchers. I'm extremely curious to this. That being said, commentary did an excellent job covering all the bases. Professionals like Kevin Kelly and Chris Charlton will have all the history, all the background ready. They knew all the stories, all the wrestlers. You felt like everything mattered. You understood who everyone was, where everything was coming from. Everything that mattered was important. The main event call was spectacularly good. This is a good show. I think it's a little uneven. A couple of things that I could absolutely have done without. A couple of things I would have traded and would have changed, but an okay show, a fine show. I think it's absolutely, I think absolutely you should go out of your way to see the women's title tournament finals. Kairi and Mayu Watani was absolutely fantastic. Go out of your way to see that. And I think the mixed tag matches were all super fun. Yeah, just good, entertaining, fun wrestling. Are we going to wrap this up talking about WWE Survivor Series War Games 2022? Am I going to do a preview of WWE Survivor Series War Games 2022? You're goddamn right I am. Thank you everyone for still being here. Ready for the dessert. Again, I want to reiterate, just in case maybe you're new. I had slowly weaned myself off of WWE earlier this year, keeping abreast with things, from afar, people telling me, Warren, you have to watch this one and so forth. And then when SummerSlam happened, I was like, oh, okay. With Vince being gone, Triple H officially in control, seeing some of the decisions he had started to make, I was like, okay, I'm jumping back in, and I started rewatching Raw, SmackDown. I dropped out of SmackDown very, very quickly because I sincerely believed, outside of anything that has to do with the Brawling Brutes and Gunther, Imperium, SmackDown is a terrible watch. So I dropped out of that very, very quickly, but I stuck to Raw. Until a couple of weeks ago where I just could not do it no more. So as I said, my weekly coverage of WWE has fallen to the wayside. I don't see the big changes that everyone told me were happening with Triple H, especially when people told me to go see Akira Tozawa's return last night, jumping into Bradshaw's arms and, making off with his hat and did woo, 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 woo. That's all that was missing really. Like, Vince booked this. This is Vince booking. There's nothing that's changed. We're right back to where we were. But I am going to watch the big shows, the big PLEs. And now we're coming up to Survivor Series War Games, which is taking place this weekend, November 26th. Thanksgiving Day weekend tradition continues. From the TD Garden over in Boston. So, look, let's just go ahead. We got a singles match where AJ Styles is going to take on Finn Balor. Okay. I mean, here's the thing. I think that the opportunities to make this cool have passed us by. I think there was a moment in time, particularly before AEW showed up, where if WWE had decided to lean into the Bullet Club history as hard as they are now, because Jesus Christ, they are now, I think this would have been cool. But I think with AEW being around and now a lot of Bullet Club's stuff trickling into there with the Elite and Adam Cole and, you know, and then Jay White popping on earlier, it doesn't feel as unique. And these guys are older now. They can still go, but they're still older now. I know this has been, you know, this has been a feud that has been built for a long time. This has been, and that's good because they do have a director of long-term booking, don't they? So, I mean, I'm curious to see what they can do. You know, we're a far cry from AJ Styles taking over the Bullet Club over Prince Devitt back in the day. And these guys are all older and a little more broken down and so on and so forth. And then they have to work the WWE style. So I don't know what we're going to get out of this, but I can guarantee you that there is going to be so many fuckery from the outside with the Good Brothers, with Damian Priest and fucking Dominic Mysterio, that it's enough to turn me off at the concept of this match. I'm sorry. I can't get, it's hard for me to get excited for this for multiple reasons. But I am excited to see Matt Ritter of the Smackin' It Raw podcast. I'm always happy to see him. Hi. Welcome, Matt. Nice to see you. United States Triple Threat, United States Championship is going to be defended in a triple threat match. Seth Rollins, champion against Bobby Lashley and Austin Theory. The new and reinvigorated Austin Theory. Folks, he's no longer a goof. He's not a ding-dong anymore. He's all serious and all intensity. Grr! Versus Seth Rollins. You know what? Look, considering that the booking is exactly the same as it always has been, this is my prediction. This is my prediction. This is what I think is going to happen. Austin Theory is going to pin Bobby Lashley, and Seth is going to drop the title. That's my theory. Because we're going to retcon immediately. Not retcon, excuse me, that's not the wrong word. We're going to rectify what happened a couple of weeks ago when Theory wasn't able to cash in properly, right? But now that he has this newfound attitude, he's so mean. He's going to go straight for the title and win it, right? As opposed to maybe like having him have some side feuds, which would let us allow us to get to know this new and flustered, intense Austin Theory. Now we're going to dive him right into a title match, right? Because that's the only way that you know you're getting pushed in WWE. And it stinks. Like, Bobby Lashley is in here for a reason, and is in here for a reason. Now, they can absolutely 100% have Theory take the fall here too. Like, that is an entirely complete completely logical scenario as well for WWE. Because even though, he's got a compelling storyline and now he's supposed to be all grit and piss and vinegar, he's still going to lose. Kind of not unlike what they did with Damage Control out the gate. And Damage Control has been damaged beyond any hope of them being the faction that we all imagined they would be. Now they're just like, just another bunch of people on the roster. And this is one of the main problems that WWE has. Everyone, except for Roman, everyone is just a bunch of people on the roster. You don't know who's really on top of it. Maybe Seth a little bit these days because, he's a Triple H guy. Triple H is making sure that he's booked strong. But everyone else sort of interchangeable. It's like it doesn't matter. So if they lean into Austin Theory, if the idea was indeed to wash the Vince stink off of him, get rid of the fucking Money in the Bank briefcase, and have him go on his own merry way and be Mr. Intensity, ruthless aggression. Austin Theory, let's go for it. I don't know. Look, my gut says Austin Theory pins Bobby Lashley, but I can absolutely see Austin Theory losing this match, getting pinned, and then we all just sit around and we collectively shrug and we go, what are they even doing with this kid? Because if he's on a push, make him look strong. Oh, well, it's not time for him to win the US title. Don't put him in the fucking match. Don't ruin him. Don't ruin him in his push. Don't fuck him up a second time. Women's SmackDown title match, Ronda Rousey versus Shotzi. Shotzi's going to have to contend with Ronda Rousey. I think we have to call it, right? Ronda Rousey's current WWE run since she came back has been a complete bust. It's been a dud. Nothing she has done has been compelling or interesting. She has not moved any viewable metric. There is nothing this woman does that is interesting or valuable to this company. And now they're putting her back in a position where she's going to run through the women, run through the division again until Charlotte comes back, right? Am I wrong? I think this is where we're going. There's no way in hell that Shotzi is winning the match. Why is Shotzi being put in this position where she's just getting... See, this is exactly like Austin Theory, where Shotzi is starting to get her mojo back. They give her back the tank. They stop having her be fucking catty and stupid. She's howling at the moon again. She has the tank. She has the helmet. We've got the Shotzi that we liked in the first place before Vince was like, I don't understand what is a horror picture. I don't understand what horror movies are. So before we got that, so now we're back to where we were with Shotzi, and now we're gonna just have her we're gonna have Ronda suck all the juice out of her. Ronda is a charisma vampire. She is an in-ring vampire. She sucks the energy out of everything she does and everyone she's wrestling against. This is bad. Ronda is bad. This is going to be bad. Then we get the first of two War Games matches. We're going to talk about let's talk about the dudes first. Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, and the Brawling Brutes going to be taking on the Bloodline. The entirety of the Bloodline. I, for one, welcome the return of Kevin Owens to the proceedings. Kevin Owens is a shining star everywhere. In everything he does in WWE, he is on top of the game every time. Promos, in-ring work. No one works like this guy in this company. No one works like this guy. No one works as hard. No one works as effectively. No one gets the crowd behind him as easily as this. If there is one guy, maybe outside of Seth Rollins, who will benefit the most from Triple H being back on top, it's this guy. I don't buy it for a second. Like I saw the, the stare down with Roman, If they want to set up Kevin Owens versus Roman for Royal Rumble and rerun the program that they had, 2 years ago at this point, that's fine, but we all know there's no way Kevin Owens is the guy, right? We know there's no way. Anyway, there's a lot of people that I like in this. I'm still very much a fan of Sheamus and his career resurgence. I love Pete Dunne as well. Kevin Owens is unquestionably is probably the most well-rounded wrestler that they have in the entire company. And then you have the Bloodline. Here is my hope. Okay, the Bloodline loses, I guess, or wins, or loses. I think they take a loss here, right? Because losing as a team isn't as bad as losing the titles, right? That's, they could show a little weakness here. But this could be a story bump if they wanted to move into more tensions within the Bloodline, so on and so forth. This could be a very interesting story bump. We'll see if they do it. But here's what I'll tell you what I'm fearing as someone who does not watch the product on a weekly basis and wants to sit down and watch a professional wrestling match, because that's how I'm going into this to the show. I would like to see these guys. I'm hoping not to see is what I'm trying to say. Excuse me, lost my train of thought there. I'm hoping to not see too much playtime drama within the match. Jimmy, not Jimmy, excuse me, Jay and Sammy and their tension and, and all that. As long as the monologues and, the Game of Thrones light bullshit is kept outside of this match, if they don't lean too hard into it, I'm cool with it. But knowing WWE, this is going to supersede anything that'll be really fun, wrestling match wise, which I'm anticipating. I hope if we get a finish, I hope it's brutal. I hope it's violent. As far as we can go in PG era WWE, of course. Don't worry, I'm tempering my expectations. I know we're not getting light tubes, trust me. But I hope it is an exclamation mark of a win for whoever does it. And I hope that whatever drama is going on, I hope it's at a bare minimum. It has the potential to be great, because it has the potential to be very good because there are some fantastic brawlers in this match. Sammy's not afraid of anything, and neither is Kevin Owens. I don't know, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens, but I'm going in with a lot of caution. And then finally, the War Games women's match. Damage Control, aka Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Shirai, and Nikki Cross, and Rhea Ripley will be taking on Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Bianca Belair, Mia Yim, who has regained her most common name, not this Michin stuff. Was it? I'm not even sure how to pronounce it correctly. Michin. And a surprise opponent, a shocker, who will walk through. We saw some blue strands of hair on the silhouette. My God, could it be Sasha? Will it be Boss time? It's gonna be Becky, right? It's Becky. It's gonna be Becky, and that's fine. Don't get me wrong. Becky's great, but it's got to be Becky. I'm excited to see how this match goes because there is a lot of talented women here and women who have worked the War Games match before, and I'm excited about it. Bayley always seems to excel in these very peculiar stipulation matches. By the way, wouldn't it be nice for Bayley to just have a straight up one-on-one pay-per-view match without any stips? Seems to me it's been a while. Anyway, Dakota Kai, Io Shirai are fantastic. Nikki Cross is, well, she's, kind of worked one before. Rhea Ripley has. Asuka's great. Bianca, but look, there's too many talented women here for this to stink. Because it's the same thing with the men's match. There's too many things with there's too many things happening. Too many talented people in both of these matches for this to stink. The only thing that's holding this back is the booking. It's how it's produced. That's the only thing. Because, again, too many excellent women here. Dakota Kai is fantastic. Bianca's fantastic. Straight out the gate. Rhea has been the Judgment Day has been the Judgment Day has been a vehicle to get Rhea Ripley not just over, super over. So she's gonna have a shining moment here. I like War Games. I like this iteration of War Games. I know a lot of people since they started using it in NXT had problems with it. In regards to the old War Games, I have a little bit of a preference to the old War Games matches because they really just felt like chaos, and I like chaos. These aren't bad. I enjoy them. It's on another type of level, a little more modern, contemporary. I think, it's not perfect, but I like them. So I'm excited to see how this is going to go. But, that's the thing with WWE PLEs recently. They can swing one way. They swing one way or they swing the other. And no, I haven't watched Crown Jewel, so I can't tell you. But they really do. Like, they can really go either way. Like I said, the only thing that's keeping this show from being an excellent wrestling program is WWE's own booking. That's the only, and it hasn't changed. We're back to where we were. Triple H truly is Vince Jr. at this point. I ain't got nothing to say. I ain't got nothing to offer. Outside of wrapping this up with the weekly wrestling inspection. Yeah. Well, there you have it. We are going to wrap this one up, toss this one into the history books and say, sayonara, November 22nd, 2022. We're done with you. So hopefully you enjoyed all of these meanderings throughout the past couple of hours or so. because I appreciated them. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys had a lot of fun too. Thank you, everyone who joined live here tonight. Maybe one last like on that video. Even if you're not watching live and you're watching this on demand, a like on the video would be very appreciated. A 5-star review on Apple Podcast or a 5-star rating on Spotify as well if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast feed. But hey, we've got a big week of wrestling coming up, and I will be back on Thursday for the AEW Dynamite review. Be sure to subscribe to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel so that you don't miss that. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.